Oropher had the wisdom to foresee that peace would not return unless Sauron was overcome. He therefore assembled a great army of his now numerous people, and joining with the lesser army of Malgalad, of Lórien, he led the host of the Sylvan Elves to battle. Hey everyone, Yoiston here, and I hope you all are doing well, wherever you are in Middle-earth. Today let's take a deeper dive into the lore of Middle-earth as we speak about the first kings of Lothlórien and Mirkwood, or Lothlórien and Greenwood at the time, Amdír and Oropher. Before we start, I would like to shout out Rhinus Art and their great Middle-earth and Beleriand map posters. A few weeks ago, Rhinus reached out and sent me a few maps to inspect, and I must say that the crisp, detailed landscapes stand out as immaculate. The paper is of such high quality, and I'm only looking to hang them after I get frames of equal quality. I must say that these are some of the best physical maps of Middle-earth, and Beleriand especially, that I've ever seen or held in real life. Please, my friends, consider checking them out. Rhinus has a special discount, MOTW24 for 20% off for the month of February, so please check it out. My friends, thank you so much, and thanks to Rhinus. Thank you all, please enjoy. Sources for today's video are in the description and cards. My friends, thank you all so much for joining me today. Let's begin our tale. These two characters, while early kings of important elven realms, are shrouded in mystery with regards to their backstories and backgrounds. Oropher was born in Doriath, of that we can be sure, sometime before its final destruction in 507 of the First Age. He also had a son Thranduil, who was born there as well, and would survive not only the destruction of Doriath by the hands of the Noldor of Feanor's sons, but also the entire destruction of Beleriand. Perhaps the same or something similar may be said of Amdír, as, like Oropher, he is also one of the Sindar elves, but we do not know if he came from the elven realm of Thingol or elsewhere. Due to the nature of his upbringing and the destruction of his original home, Oropher, whose name means tall beach in Sindarin, wished to return with his people to a life of general isolation from the other peoples of Middle-earth, as he desired to return to that form of how life was before the Valar came and invited the elves to come to Valinor during the Years of the Trees, starting all of this off. Thus he, Oropher, an elf of the Sindar, came to the Greenwood forest and joined his people with the sylvan inhabitants of that forest, spanning their realm through the forest and even a bit further south. Amdír, whose name means hope, or a version of it in Sindarin, somehow became a Sindar king of Lothlórien, Lothlórien at the time, and eventually he had a son named Amroth, as we must reject the non-canonical notes of Tolkien remarking that Amroth was the son of Galadriel and Celeborn. He simply wasn't. The people of Lórien were not as isolated as the people of Greenwood, though for a long while before the coming of Galadriel and Celeborn, they mostly had the same type of elven people mixed together in those two places, Sindar and Sylvan elves. Yet Oropher of the Greenwood rejected the dwarves of Khazad-dûm and their looming and grand realm, the greatest of all dwarven realms. And these elves rejected the Noldor generally, such as Galadriel, and so on. And so during the Second Age, Oropher led his new realm and people further north into Mirkwood. Apparently, as the age went on, Oropher migrated further and further north 3 times, from south near Amon Lanc, the hill that would eventually be Dol Guldur, all the way to the mountains of Mirkwood and the edges of the Northern Dwarf Road and the Vales of Anduin. This was simply because he wished to isolate himself and his people from the world of the Noldor, elves, men, dwarves, and Sauron. And so, the elves of Greenwood would generally dwell in peace for a time. The same was generally said of Lórien, even while Galadriel dwelt there during the War of the Elves and Sauron, with an elven ring of power, under the protection and rule of King Amdír. Amdír was far more open to being a member kingdom of Middle-earth, as he was a little bit closer geographically, but still did not go much out of his way during his lifetime, besides near the end of it, to aid the greater world at large. His son Amroth, perhaps, did go further abroad, however, but I'm unsure of that. I wanted to mention it, though, because Amroth may have built a reputation prior to the Third Age with the elves in the lands to the south, where Gondor would eventually be, with such elves as those who maintained the harbors in Belfalas, which connected to his story later on. However, from their realms, both Amdír and Oropher would be called by duty and fate to join the other factions to take on Sauron near the end of the Age, in the War of the Last Alliance. Oropher knew that while he wished to maintain his isolation for his people and himself, he likely could not do so forever if Sauron had victory, for his evils would spread all across the land and all of its peoples. Likely Amdír was also already more keen on helping the others, but surely came to realize the same sort of thing. And so Amdír and Oropher joined Gil-galad and Elendil and the dwarves in their march towards their fate in Mordor. Yet, neither one of them would join their companies under the direct command of the High King Gil-galad, an elf of the Noldor. A side note about some of these writings is that there is another name, Mal-galad, that is referenced as being the leader of these armies of Lindornand or Lórien. Yet many agree that this name acts synonymously with Amdír, and so it must be referring to the same character. And so, as Oropher and Amdír's forces fought further on towards Mordor and came to the Black Gate, these bold elves, both of Lórien and Greenwood, realized that they were not as well equipped as the Noldor were, but they pressed on anyway. In fact, they had joined their forces together, Amdír's smaller army to Oropher's larger one, to make a larger Sindarin and Sylvan force. But it availed them not, for during the Battle of Dagorlad in 3434 of the Second Age, they charged before Gil-galad gave the order and suffered massive casualties. For Oropher, he would lose 2/3 of his forces and die upon the Dagorlad, with his son Thranduil surely close at hand, who became king after him, and was hardened by this experience. Amdír would lose over half of his forces, and he would be pushed back into the Dead Marshes, only for so many to be slaughtered there, becoming the ghastly wraiths of the Dead Marshes. Amroth, his son, would also survive this battle, however, and become king in Lórien for almost 2,000 years afterwards. Thranduil and Amroth would not only lead the hosts of their father's home after the war, but would rule them for many years to come, remembering their fathers and the lessons they learned from them. And so we come to the end of our tale on the strangely obscure histories of the first kings of Lórien and Mirkwood, Amdír and Oropher. From this tale, we see what it took these two kings long to see. We are stronger when we are together than when we are apart. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, please be sure to hit that like button and share this with a friend. What are your thoughts on these kings? Let me know in the comments below. I do appreciate that we have some insight into their lore and history, and I do enjoy that nothing is overdone with them, but still I do wish we knew more. Please consider getting those maps from our friend Rhinus, again all linked in the description below, and also please consider getting some candles from our friends Mythologie Candles, or order some Weta or United Cutlery Lord of the Rings swords, statues, and other replicas from Castle Kon, who does international shipping, and use the code WEST at checkout, and please check out our merch and Patreon. Thanks to our Valar tier patrons and YouTube members, Peter Shepard, Merton, John Hume, Elizabeth Calvert, Maz Gibbs, Reese Jenkins, Arthur Merlin, Dale Davis, Kingswald Project, Theodore, Moon Viper, Andrew Carlisle, and Zumi, and Brian Hunley. Thank you so much to all of our patrons and YouTube members. It really means a lot. Please subscribe and hit that bell button to join the Men of the West and all of the Free Peoples today. And I'll see you all again next week with a video on the love story of Arathorn and Gilrain, Aragorn's parents, for Valentine's Day coming up. My friends, thank you all so much for joining me on this adventure. Until the next one.